Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video, and today we are taking a look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Snake Eyes. Here we have Snake Eyes displayed in the front window with his accessories along with some artwork there on the right hand side, and then we get the G.I. Joe Classified Series logo and his name at the bottom. On the right hand side we get some cool artwork there of Snake Eyes along with Timber down at the bottom. On the left-hand side, we do get the classified file icons, so we can see that Snake Eyes is a level 4 covert operative, a level 4 with bladed weapons, level 4 with stealth, and level 4 ninjutsu master. And then we see his number designation there with the number 2. On the back, we do get that big splash page again, just showing off all that awesome new artwork there for the G.I. Joe Classified Series. And at the bottom, we do have the UPC code, so you can check with your local retailer to see if they have this in stock. But enough about that, let's get this open and take a look at Snake Eyes. And here is Snake Eyes outside of his packaging, and if you were like me a few months ago, you already got this figure in the form of the deluxe version Snake Eyes from Hasbro Pulse, albeit with more paint and some more color added to some of these sculpted parts. This version here, they took away some paint, took away some of the colored sculpted parts, and replaced it with a mostly black Snake Eyes, which certainly is more iconic look for Snake Eyes, a more iconic look that is. So still a very cool figure. We get the same great sculpt work and articulation that we got with that deluxe version. However, that's not to say that this figure doesn't have some issues, unfortunately, and I will go over those when we look at some of the closer looks, as well as looking at some of the accessories, because I actually have a problem with one of the accessory pieces as well. Now, speaking of those accessories, of course, we got a bunch of stuff with the deluxe version Snake Eyes, and that was severely reduced for this particular release. But we do still get the backpack with the sheath on it, and this is going to be the same backpack that we already saw, albeit this one from the deluxe version was a more olive green color and had that olive green on the sheath as well, versus this one, which is going to just be all black, but we still get that same great sculpted detail, and they did apply some paint to the buckles and things like that, so that does help stand it out. And then we do get the sheath for the sword that does port into it, and I love that little leather texture to it. And then we get the clan logo, if I remember correctly, is what that was. And then he does have the same sword as well. So still looking good, molded in all black, just like the deluxe version. So no surprises there, and it does fit into the sheath without too much issue. And the backpack does port in on the back. You can put it through the bandolier and then port it directly into the back with that piece there. And it does have the port that plugs into the side. He also gets the same knife that we saw with the deluxe version, which is fine. I mean, it's a good looking knife. It's decently sculpted and, again, molded in black just like his sword. And then this is where I have one of my problems. He does have a sheath there for the knife, but unfortunately on mine, I can't get it to go in all the way. When I was looking at it, it appears that there's some extra material here that didn't quite get molded properly, preventing it from going down all the way. And just for reference, you can see that this one went in just fine on the deluxe version. In fact, it goes in quite smoothly, and that one does not. So that is a bit disappointing. I may actually just take this off altogether versus having an empty sheath there. I think I'll just take it off completely, and yeah, that'll just be what I have for that. And then for our first new piece of weaponry, we do get this sci-fi looking pistol here, which I don't really know why it has that big hole in it. But again, very sci-fi looking, does not look like it's based off of anything real, but still pretty cool looking. And then we do get one more piece though here for it that is something that we got with the deluxe version, which is going to be the silencer, which is going to port right in over the end of the barrel there. And then you do get the silencer with it, which does look pretty good. The colors match and everything like that, so I do appreciate that. And then he's going to have weapon storage for both of these, actually, both the gun and the silencer. So you can slide the silencer in there, and then the pistol does fit in without too much issue on mine, thankfully. It doesn't stick out too bad, so it looks good, though. And then finally we get this last piece of new equipment here in the form of this sci-fi looking submachine gun. And it still looks pretty cool again. I'm not sure what the deal is with these holes in the middle. But we don't get the classic submachine gun that we got with the deluxe version, which, I mean, if this was the only version of Snake Eyes I got, I'd probably be a bit disappointed by this, to be completely honest. But it does look pretty cool, I suppose. And, you know, I called it a submachine gun. It looks like that's what it would be. Although we do get this very ugly peg here on the side, and my assumption there is that if you don't want to have, whoops, that's the wrong one, there we go. If you don't want to have the sheath ported in, you can go ahead and port his gun in instead. And I even tried, just out of curiosity, if it was something where, like, what if you could port the sheath into here, and it doesn't really want to fit. And not to mention, even if it did, I mean, that would not be a very effective way to carry your weapons. So it looks like it's just meant to be either the sword or the gun that goes in there. Now, when standing straight up, Snake Eyes is coming in at 6 1/4 inches tall, which makes him 15.9 centimeters, so he is a good height, still fits in well with things like Legends and, of course, other G.I. Joe figures. But since there are no other accessories to look at, we're going to go ahead and jump in here. We're going to compare the deluxe version to this version and get an overall better look at the sculpt and paint on Snake Eyes. And getting up close here, I realized that I was mistaken. I said that this one had a lot less paint, but as I get up close to it, I can see that there's the glossy piece of this head sculpt, specifically the visor, and that's actually painted on. You can see where it didn't quite align there at the top, so that actually is black paint. So where we had the silver paint on the deluxe version, they just did this glossy black on this one, and even added that little red stripe there to the top, which we didn't get with the deluxe version. So that's actually really cool. And as I've been looking at the rest of the body, I'm realizing that's basically the case, is that this isn't really necessarily less paint, it's just different color molded pieces. So for example, the arm straps are molded in black instead. This chest piece, which is a separate piece that can actually lift up, so that's just molded in black, but we can see we actually have the same paint apps there. So you get the silver on the buckle and you get the red in the middle, and even on the back they have the silver right there as well on both of those pieces. So that is really cool. The bandolier definitely got a lot less to it, so this is all just one molded black piece, where this one we had the olive green, and then the grenades were done in black, which that actually probably would have looked better the other way around, to have the grenades in green. And then continuing down, so the belt is molded in black with the silver and red paint instead of, again, that olive green. And then looking down at the pants, so we had the lower torso in that olive green, and then just all black here, but again, the glossy pieces of the pants, we can see that is actually paint that was applied to it. So really cool that they actually put about the same amount of paint into this figure that they did on the deluxe figure. So I can actually really appreciate that. But looking at some of those other details, so we get some good texture there in the legs. And I like that we have the paint still, again, just on all the various straps and things like that. I mean, there are a couple spots where they did reduce the paint. So like, for example, here on the gloves, on the knuckles, and then on the inside of the forearm. So we don't get any paint here on these gloves. We don't get any paint on the inside of that forearm. So there are some spots that do have less paint, that is true. But for the most part, they actually put in pretty much the same effort. And they even technically did add, we get the paint there, and then we get the red line up top. So they did add some paint to it. But overall, the sculpt and design on this figure is really good. I did forget to mention that it's a bit disappointing that we don't get any alternate hands with this version of Snake Eyes. I really would just like some fists, to be honest. We didn't get fists even with the deluxe version, and that seems to be, so far, the 3 figures in the G.I. Joe line I've reviewed don't have fists. I am not going to go over the articulation on Snake Eyes because we've seen it before, but it is good articulation. You get a lot of range there, and I had even mentioned this with the Roadblock one, that I was looking for a diaphragm joint. I guess I was just forgetting that the Joe line doesn't have the diaphragm joint and the ab crunch. It has the ab crunch, and then it has that extra range on the waist. So I guess I forgot about that piece. But he does still have the same kind of drop down hips and everything like that. So very good articulation. I will say though, so in addition to this problem with the holster, I also had to get an X-Acto knife out, and you probably can't really see it, but this joint here was seized pretty hard, so I had to get the X-Acto knife out to kind of separate it from the molding, and then heated it up in order to get this knee to pop. So that was a bit of a frustration as well. But otherwise, the figure did come out pretty decent. And that is going to do it for this review, everyone. So overall, I still really like the figure. The lack of hands so far in 2 figures that I've reviewed is a bit disheartening. I would love an extra fisted hand. Even just one would be nice for figures that are going to be potentially doing a lot of hand-to-hand combat. It's a bit disappointing to not get some of those different hands. So, especially considering, in this case, you almost have to have each hand busy in order to make a pose look really good. So, that is probably my biggest gripe right now. I am also starting to realize now that I'm 3 figures in, the joints on these, specifically the leg joints, they feel a little gummy, and sometimes I have a hard time getting the figures to hold a pose in the legs. Roadblock kept wanting to do the splits when I had him in certain poses, so that is a bit, I guess we'll call it worrisome, but we'll sort of wait and see how the rest of this line pans out as I continue on with these reviews and see if that does continue to be a trend amongst the figures. But again, like I said, that is it. I'm still loving the Joe line so far until they give me a reason not to. That whole Target pre-order debacle is that's high on the list of one of the reasons not to, but we'll see how things go. But with that being said, make sure to stay tuned. I will be finishing off the rest of the wave here in the next few videos, so keep an eye out for those. Subscribing is going to be the best way to see the rest of those reviews, so make sure to do that if you want to see content just like this. Aside from that, thanks for watching my video today, and have a great day.